everybody, welcome to Muntsy's Kitchen. Today we're going to talk about health and safety. We have to do that before we even think about working with food. Did you know that last year 2.4 million people were very ill because of food poisoning? In fact, 180 of those people died. So this is something we really must pay attention to. Okay, so what we're going to do today, we're going to look at some things that are going to help us to stay safe within our own kitchens. I know by now you're probably fed up of washing your hands and thinking of health and safety, but actually this is nothing to do with COVID. This is to do with our everyday lives, and when we're working with food and kitchen equipment, keeping safe is our top priority. Okay. So the first thing, cut on your finger. If you've got a cut on your finger, you must always put a plaster on it. So that's to protect your finger and to protect food so that no bacteria or germs can get into food. Those of you that work at the jailhouse cafe will know that at work you have to wear a blue plaster so that if it does drop off into food, it can be found very quickly and the food can be destroyed. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have no jewellery on our hands and wrists. So take off your rings and your watches, please. Always important. Put them somewhere safe. Tie your hair back if you've got long hair and try not to touch your hair. If you sneeze or cough, you should always wash your hands immediately afterwards. Never should you sneeze or cough over food or anything in the kitchen. And we all know when we're going to sneeze, don't we? So you've got a little bit of warning there to get out of the kitchen. Never ever lick a spoon. The reason for that is obvious, because if you have bacteria or germs in your mouth and put that spoon back into the food, you're literally putting germs into the food. The other thing is dishcloths and tea towels. You should wash these regularly. That's not just once a fortnight or the monthly wash. These should be washed really after every time you cook. Okay, so now we're going to move on to when we start cooking. So the very first rule is wash your hands. And don't just dip them in the washing up water. Find some soap and water and wash your hands properly. The way we've been doing it with COVID is a really good thing for us all to remember, because then you know you would have washed all the bacteria off. Fruit and vegetables, again, wash under cold running water. Never ever use soap, just cold running water just to clean them before you start. When you're washing up, it's a good idea to use a scourer or a sponge because it's got a rough edge and that will take all the food off the plate, back and front, or whatever it is you're washing. Okay. Lastly, chopping boards. Chopping boards. That's not a flat surface, is it? So there's lots of grooves in here, whether it's plastic or wood. Chopping boards absolutely love germs. So it's so important that whatever you do, you wash your chopping boards in hot, soapy water and give them a real good scrub all the way over. The same applies to knives. Have these knives here. Your knives should be washed after every single use. So for example, if you're working with meat, you wash your knife before you start working with another food. Most importantly, when you do your washing up, you should never ever put a knife straight into the water and leave it there. Somebody else could come in and cut their hands. So the golden rule with knives is wash it, dry it, and put it away. Okay, so we're now going to look at starting to cook. We need to think about the whole kitchen now. We also need to think about who might be coming in and out and how you're going to use it. So if we start with the cooker, you can see this pan here. The handle is sticking out. If a child walked by or I walked by, I can knock it. If it has boiling hot water in there, it's going to burn you. So always, always turn your handles in. And small children are curious. A child might try and pull the handle to see what's in it. So please remember, keep those handles in. Okay, so now we're going to talk about cooker rings. If you finish cooking something, please make sure you turn the ring off. Lots of house fires have been started by cooker rings being left on. So we're going to talk about chopping food. So the most important thing is to keep that food and that knife as far away from your hands as possible. Never chop food with your hands like that. You really should have a flat surface. But these are knife skills that you will be taught when you come back. So the golden rule is just keep that knife as far away from your hands as possible so you can push the food towards the knife. Another thing about knives is don't walk around with it like this. If you're walking around in the kitchen, hold your knife down. If you do fall, the knife will fall down and not into you. And last rule about knives, don't put them into hot soapy water and leave them there. We're now going to talk about the fridge. So already in your activity packs, you've done loads of activities around keeping food safe, organising your fridge and checking the sell-by dates. But I'm just going to go over a few of those things again. So any food that you keep in your fridge, cover it. If you cover it, it can stop germs getting in. Don't store food in tins in your fridge, put them in a bowl and put a cover on it. Always check the sell-by and use-by dates. You should be absolutely brilliant at this by now. And remember to throw away food that's out of date. If it's things like vegetables and fruit, that could go into a compost bin. Keep all raw foods on the bottom shelf of your fridge. This is so important. So if we think of meat, there's blood in meat. If it drips, it's only going to go to the bottom of the fridge and not come down over other food. When we have any food in the kitchen lying around, please cover it, just to keep it safe. If any of you have got cats, you will know how crafty they are, and the minute you turn your back, they'll be up on the side having a sniff. And in the summer especially, cover your food because there are flies, and when the smell of cooking is coming out the kitchen window, the flies know there's food in there. They're going to make their way into your kitchen. One last thing that I think a lot of us forget about is I've talked about covering the food and cooling it quickly. You should never ever put hot food into a fridge, ever. And the reason for that is when you put hot water into a fridge, it makes the fridge warm up. So if you have other things in there like meat, hams, it's going to generate bacteria. So the rule is cool the food down, cover it up, and then put it in the fridge when it's cool. Now we're going to watch a film. It's a Jamie Oliver film and it's called What Not to Do in the Kitchen. So you've had to sit and listen to me for a bit. This will be a really good way to find out how much you've learnt this morning. So I would like you to make a note or remember anything that you think is wrong in the video, and we'll come back to it in a minute. Wasn't very good, was it? I don't think I would want to eat anything that was made in that kitchen. Let's go through and see if we've come up with the same things. So the first thing I noticed, she didn't have her hair tied up. Her hair was often over the food. She hadn't taken her rings off. In fact, she had a great big ring and she was having her hands in the food. Not good. Well, think of all the germs under that ring. She threw the knife into the sink and just left it there. One of the things she did that was really worrying was when she was chopping the rosemary, her fingers were far too close to that knife. Not good. She prepared raw meat on the chopping board and then put other food alongside it. Not good. Not once did she wash her hands. In fact, what she did do is she just wiped them on a tea towel. Well, those of you that have done food hygiene, and that's most of you, will know that that bacteria is still on her hands. So she's going to spread that to everything else. She wiped the board with the tea towel, so the tea towel's now infected. She touched her hair and then put her hands into the food. She spilt stuff on the floor. It was mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is very slippy. The rule is you clear spills up immediately. And then she coughed into her hand, which was over the food as well. Wasn't good. It wasn't very impressive. Okay, that's a lot of information for people to take in. So what I would like you to do is perhaps look at the handouts that you've been given or watch this video again just to remind yourselves, because next week we're going to be cooking together. So could I ask you please if you could check that you've got your ingredients ready for when we start, and also read your handouts. Okay, so I will see you next week.